Hello and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, I just wanted to make a quick announcement to say my Patreon is now live. Sign up for my inexpensive online cooking lessons. I will put a link in the description. In today's video, I will be making a pumpkin soup. So next time you are carving a jack-o'-lantern, why not save the flesh and make some delicious pumpkin soup? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe, or you will be haunted forever. So on my counter I have the ingredients to make our pumpkin soup. We have a kilo of pumpkin, we've got 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, we've got a 400 gram tin of butter beans, we've got 150 grams of finely diced onion, we've got 40 grams of unsalted butter, we've got a large pinch of saffron that I've added some boiling water to. We've got a litre of chicken stock, or if you prefer you can use vegetable stock. We have a 1/4 teaspoon of hot red chilli. We've got 2 rashers of smoked bacon. We've got a teaspoon of Leberkuchen spices. We're going to use 4 cloves of black garlic. We've got 10 grams of finely chopped fresh coriander. We're going to use some creme fraiche for the garnish, and we've also kept some pumpkin seeds that we're going to toast also for the garnish. So we put our tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil into a wok, got it hot, and we're going to cook our 2 rashers of smoked bacon in the hot oil. We want to get it nice and crisp, but we also want to flavour the oil with the bacon, and in that oil we're then going to cook our pumpkin. So make sure the bacon is nice and crisp, and then we're just going to remove it from the pan and lay it on some paper towel, and then we're going to turn the oil down, and now we're going to add our pumpkin. So in the bacon fat we are now going to cook our pumpkin, and we want to cook this in small batches just to get a little bit of flavour, and then we're going to transfer this to a pan and just finish it off in the oven. And we're going to take 10 grams of our butter, put that into the pumpkin, so keep the pumpkin moving around so it doesn't stick to the bottom of your wok, and then we just want to add a little bit of seasoning, and then we're going to place that on a tray and then do another batch. So I've added some more olive oil and a little more butter to the pan, and now we're going to cook another batch. Remember, we don't want to put too much in at one time. We don't want it to steam, we want to try to get a little colour on it. We want it on quite high, we've got it on 8. And we want to season it as well with some salt and pepper. Just very lightly, because you can always add more, but you can't take it away. So each batch of pumpkin takes about 4 minutes to cook on a high heat. Just keep moving it around. And then we're going to transfer this onto our baking tray, and just repeat until we've done all of the pumpkin. So all our pumpkin is on our baking tray, and we're going to put it in the oven at 190 degrees to make it a little more brown. But before we do that, we're going to sprinkle our red chilli, and we're also going to put our Leberkuchen spices on there, which will also help the colour. So on a medium heat we're going to take all the remaining butter and we're going to melt it, and then once all the butter is melted we're going to add 150 grams of finely diced onions. At the same time you want to start heating up your stock, because when you're making soup it goes a lot faster if your stock is already hot. So the butter is completely melted, so we can now start adding onions. We just want to sweat these onions down. We don't want any colour on them, but we do want them nice and translucent before we add other ingredients. At the same time, we are going to add our saffron, which we soaked with some boiling water to start bringing out the flavour of the saffron into our chicken stock. So we can just dip that in so we don't waste any whatsoever, straight into our stock. So the onions are now nice and translucent, and now we're going to start adding some of the stock which we've been heating. So we'll add a couple of ladles of the stock. We've also washed and drained our butter beans. We're going to add our butter beans to the stock and then continue to add the rest of the stock into the saucepan. So the pumpkin has had 15 minutes at 190 degrees. It's nice and soft, it's got some nice colour on it, and it's now ready to be added to the soup. So just transfer the pumpkin into our stock. So this soup is coming together really well. You can taste some of the spices, but you don't want the spices overpowering the pumpkin. Remember, pumpkin is quite a mild flavour, like any other squash. So you want a little bit of spice, a little bit of heat to enhance it, not to overpower it. So we're cooking this for a little while until everything is really nice and tender, and then we're going to put this through our food processor to make it really nice and creamy smooth. So we've reserved some pumpkin seeds from when we made our jack-o'-lantern, and we've taken all the fibre out and given it a good wash and dried it with paper towel. So now we want to roast these because this is going to be one of the garnishes. So we're just going to sprinkle that on a clean baking tray, and we're just going to dry roast it. But before we put it in the oven, we're just going to season it with some salt. It's much better if you use sea salt for something like this, something which has nice big granules. So we'll put that in the oven, and just, we don't want really too much colour on it, we just want them nice and dry. So the pumpkin seeds have had 20 minutes at 190 degrees, and that's what you're looking for, just a little bit of colour but not too much. So one of the garnishes that we're using today for the soup is black garlic. Now if you're not familiar with black garlic, it is garlic that's been cooked at a very low temperature for quite some time, which eventually turns the whole head of garlic black. You can buy it usually in two forms. This is already peeled, and you can also buy just the head of garlic. It's usually sold in the UK, but you can also buy it in the US. So we're going to take 4 cloves, but the cloves do vary in size, so we want to try to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, that should be enough for what we've got. And the taste is not just a very lightly garlic, it also has almost like a balsamic flavour to it. So it's really delicious and makes a great garnish. So we're going to just chop it up, but you really need a nice sharp knife to do this. We want the garlic to be as small as possible, and it will stick to your knife. You need to get it off the knife, turn it around. And that's about as fine as you want it. So the pumpkin is nice and tender now, so we're going to puree the soup in the food processor. So we're just going to take this in 2 batches. And we'll put the lid on. So let's take a look, see if it is smooth enough. Yes, that's lovely and smooth. So we're going to put that into our clean saucepan that we've got here, and then repeat the process. And here's the final batch of soup that's been pureed. It's lovely and smooth, silky smooth. And we're just going to reheat it and get ready to serve. Before that, we are going to test it, taste it, make sure it's seasoned enough. Very close to being right on the money. And a tiny bit of salt, tiny bit of pepper, because we seasoned the pumpkin in the cooking process, plus you got all those spices, so it's packed with flavour. So as the pumpkin soup reheats, ready for service, we're just going to sprinkle in our coriander and give that a good stir. So I'm going to put the creme fraiche garnish onto the soup using a piping bag. So I'm going to show you how to make a piping bag. So I started off with a rectangular piece of parchment or baking paper, and I've cut it at an angle to end up with two pieces like that. And then we want to bring the blunt end inside, and you want to line up these two edges together. And once you have those two edges together, you just want to keep winding it around until you have a nice point. Then you want to fold it in at the top once, and then once again, so you have a little bag. So we're going to take some of the creme fraiche and drop it gently into your piping bag. You don't want to fill it up all the way. This will be plenty. So you want to let it drop down a little bit. Then you want to fold it down like that, like that, like that, and like that. And just push it towards the end. So we've ladled our soup into the bowl, and now we're going to come along with our garnishes. First up is our creme fraiche. So we're just going to take the piping bag, just run a nice zigzag line. Just go slowly. If the line breaks, you can go back over it. And now we're going to sprinkle some of the crispy, smoky, streaky bacon. Now we're going to get some of the black garlic. Black garlic sticks to the spoons or tweezers, so you just have to be gentle with it so you can get it spaced out. And finally there. Then we're going to sprinkle some of our toasted pumpkin seeds. And then finally we're going to take a little bit of the remaining coriander, and we just want to sprinkle that on. And then we have our delicious pumpkin soup. So here we have our delicious finished pumpkin soup. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe, and happy Halloween!